politician.
She said he had a political show. She didn't say he was
so he's got a political show. I'll tell you what, to make you feel even more comfortable then, right? I've been a Hollywood dude for a long time. Bill Maher, I think, I feel, and this is totally genuine, I feel his whole position and his whole shit as a comedian for the last 20 years is just to have been impressed black girls. That's it. So like he's been out to dinner with
Corinne
every...
Steffens.
Yeah.
So I don't think, I don't, he was really like weird though.
Bill Maher? Well, he's older. You know that, right? Like he's in his...
I love how both times she's not naming names, and then right afterwards the host is like, Bill Maher. Do you mean Bill Maher? You're talking about Bill Maher. HBO's Bill Maher. Yeah, Real Time with Bill Maher. That Bill Maher? Well, I don't want to... Yeah, okay, no, I understand. You don't want to reveal who this is. But you are talking about Bill Maher, right?
Open letter to Chapelle Roan. Now, to those viewers who aren't watching this while also looking at their phones, let me explain.
By the way, this is, by definition, I think, boomer humor, right? Because, like, it's old people yelling at young people, but for old people. That's kind of what's taking place here. Or it's just like, you know, those of you who aren't distracted with multiple devices because you're not young, you know, you know how to watch and pay attention. You don't go to concerts and film it for the gram. You know, you go, you sit down, you spend 2 hours, and then you get up and you go home and you have some prune juice.
Chapelle Roan is not the name of one of Trump's golf courses. She's
wow, that crushed.
actually a great new recording artist who, like a Hezbollah pager, is really blowing up.
Which is like, that's a profoundly disgusting thing to say when, like, you know, there's confirmed deaths of a little girl who, like, had her face blown off. It was a mass terrorist attack. But apparently it's hilarious to Americans. You know, American, you know, again, conservative boomers and liberal boomers as well.
In just a few months, she went from a struggling artist to getting 3 billion plays on Spotify, netting her almost 11 cents. But here's what caught my eye. She seems like a Gen Zer who can be reached, because I saw her on TMZ say,
it's like, obviously, fuck the policies of the right, but also fuck some of the policies on the left.
that sounds like something I would say.
My only criticism of her statement was just associating liberalism with leftism. But again, it's like, that's the only thing I can really say. Outside of that, it's like, this is the way a lot of young people feel. And I think that, like, you know, the media class, especially the people who are working at the highest levels, if you have your own show on HBO kind of shit, you're so detached from reality. This is one of the reasons why politicians are like, well, the solution to this is to effectively ban TikTok. If we get rid of TikTok, then all these kids won't be telling each other about the horrifying war crimes that are taking place. And it's like, this disconnect from the necessity that so many people have kind of just grown up with, where they have to uphold the values and aesthetics of the empire at all costs, and everything that the US does is benevolent. Yeah, younger kids are not buying that garbage anymore. And in large part due to the fact that they can see in real time how the world works. They're interconnected in a way that previous generations were not. I grew up before the internet, and then I grew into the internet. They grew up with the internet. And the very idea of, like, hey, on any given day, you can wake up, push a button on this little cube that you have in your pocket, and you can see people in any corner of the world doing fantastic and beautiful things, incredible things. There's this one guy who's got an entire shtick where all he does is perform, like, incredible feats and tricks with his nipples. And that's all he does. He, like, every single day wakes up and thinks of a way in which he can accomplish something incredible with his nipples. Everything from, like, pulling, like, a, you know, a table with all these cups on it with, like, clamps attached to his nipples. He can go like that, and then he doesn't break any of the glasses or the cups. Or he can light birthday candles with his nipples and then use his nipples to, like, backflip and shit like that. Like, it's incredible. And like, I would never know that he exists, let alone that his nipples were that fucking talented, be it not for the internet. And that's a beautiful thing. You can see all that. you can also see horrifying war crimes play out and witness them in real time on your phone anywhere in the world and see them. And that's stuff that took place over the weekend, where there was literal people burning alive, where you can see their IV, things attached and all that kind of stuff. Kids can see this, and as they see this, they're being told by everyone, within positions of authority, that this is necessary. This is for democracy. This is for the preservation of American security. This needs to happen. $60 of every single American, and your taxes need to go towards this war machine so that we can safely secure freedom globally, especially domestically. This is a necessary thing. It may feel bad sometimes, and yes, war is ugly. No one's trying to deny that, but you have to understand, you kids, you silly kids, that this is a necessary order. And no, it's not. It's absolutely grotesque. It's necessary insofar it's going to maintain the American empire. It's going to maintain the stocks for the military-industrial complex, which are always soaring during all these horrifying, genocides, ethnic cleansing, atrocities taking place globally as the world's largest arms dealer profits handsomely from all this kind of shit. But for people who recognize it for what it is, and once you see it for what it is, having all of these elites, whether they be liberal elites or right-wing elites or whoever is working in media, in the media apparatus at any given time to be able to push, again, this American agenda, kids don't buy it. And not just children, but a lot of people aren't. A lot of people are suddenly questioning all this kind of stuff. Unfortunately, the corners of the internet that are ready to receive, the Alex Joneses who are like, oh yes, you think the world is a little bit different than you were told your entire life, but we have the answers. We have the entire thing. It's a globalist cabal. Here's some anti-Semitism. Here's a whole bunch of conspiracy theories. Here's anything other than holding those with capital and power accountable, and now run with it. But on the other end, when you get, a liberal comedian like Bill Maher, who's going to come out there and tell you, hey, isn't it hilarious when all those war crimes happened and kids had their faces blown off because the targets were terrorists? So it's funny because of the terrorist targets.
Because it isn't.
Now, I was trying to process what exactly Bill was saying there. I didn't know if he was referring to himself as an ally. I don't know if he knows this. Chapelle is queer. She's not an ally to the queer community. She's a member of the queer community and an advocate for the queer community. Unlike Bill Maher, who is a bigot, he's a TERF, he's willing to throw trans people under the bus, he says some of the most vile and disgusting fucking transphobic shit you can imagine. He's got entire segments where he thinks it's hilarious to talk about how trans people could actually just be gay, and at the end of the day, he's like, is it really necessary to cut off your dick if your kid's gay instead of just figuring that out, stuff like that? The kind of stuff you would expect to see on Fox News, Breitbart, far-right podcasts, stuff like that. No. That's Bill Maher, and that's Bill Maher and his segments, and that's HBO. That's on HBO, who, come Pride, will certainly enjoy putting a whole bunch of their queer creators out in front, changing their logo to a rainbow, all that kind of stuff. But that's the level of bigotry that you're dealing with on a regular basis. Well, he's going to sit there at the same time and, mock Chapelle Roan for apparently being a queer ally.
There's a whole history of the Middle East that you and your fans aren't hearing about. So why don't you let me be your spirit guide through this?
By the way, stop using that if you're not indigenous and talking about spirit animals and spirit guides and thinking that the whole thing's hilarious.
But before I do, let me tell you a little about myself, since you may have no idea who I am, considering that when this show went on the air, you were barely old enough to be told you were in the wrong body. So, my name is Bill Maher. I'm 30.
What's this? Oh, shit, I didn't know about this. Here's porn star Tiana Trump recalling when Bill Maher paid her to have sex with him and go slowly and kiss him as if she loved him. I didn't know.
Apparently he likes this. I'm probably going to give it away. Black girls.
Yeah. Look, Bill Maher loves black girls. Is it Bill Maher?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, but he's not a politician.
She said he had a political show. She didn't say he was
so he's got a political show. I tell you what, to make you feel even more comfortable then, right? I've been a Hollywood dude for a long time. Bill Maher, I feel, and this is totally genuine, I feel his whole position and his whole shit as a comedian for the last 20 years is just to have been impressed black girls. That's it. So like he's been out to dinner with
Corinne Steffens.
Yeah.
So I don't, he was really like weird though.
Bill Maher? Well, he's older. You know that, right? Like he's in his...
I love how both times she's not naming names, and then right afterwards the host is like, Bill Maher. Do you mean Bill Maher? You're talking about Bill Maher, HBO's Bill Maher. Yeah, Real Time with Bill Maher, that Bill Maher. Well, I don't want to. Yeah, okay, no, I understand. You don't want to reveal who this is, but you are talking about Bill Maher, right?
60s, and it's like,
Well,
hey,
I lied to him, so I started to lie to everybody about my age. So like when I went there, I was 18, and he was like, "How old are you?" I was like, "I'm 22." He was like, "Well, when did you graduate high school?" I couldn't think of the math in my head, so I just said something. He was like, "Well, sweetie, that would mean you're this old." And so I was like, "Fuck." He was like, "So you're lying to me? I don't like liars." So he got real serious, and then he started asking me other questions.
really?
About so I was getting money from him, obviously, because he paid me for the service, blah blah blah, and I had to split it with the person or give them a cut because they had booked it.
Yeah.
He was like, "What person?" He was so mad. You could tell he probably wanted to cancel. Like it was the most awkward.
You know what's fucked up about this is it sounds exactly like you'd expect, just pretentious scumbag Bill Maher who's like, talking to someone and all of a sudden it's just like, oh, by the way, I'm interested in procuring services from you, but I do want to ask you some questions, right? I just want to see how intelligent you are and really figure this out. So how old are you, sweetie? Yeah. Okay, you told me how old you are, but I want to know, when did you graduate from high school? Ah, see, you're not as clever as you think. You're actually younger than you originally said you were. Either way, it doesn't matter to me because I'm clearly interested in you, regardless.
Awkwardest experience ever, but there's so much more. But I don't want to speak on. He has a really big dick, though.
That's what I heard.
Nice.
So here's what I heard. Like him,
like that.
David
Good for
Spade.
him.
I heard Spade's got a fucking
David
hammer
Spade's
on
hung,
him.
yeah.
And there's guys that are just known as like, all right, cool, you got a big dick, put up with this shit. My question is this though: is you're not a prostitute?
No.
So is there a service for porn stars where it's just like, hey, I want this porn star and I'll take this porn star and it's cool? Who is he calling and who is he paying at that point?
Black girls.
Yeah, but who does Bill Maher call? Like, did you have a pimp or somebody who was just like, hey?
I literally have, it was another porn star and it was a white girl and I don't think she's fucked him, but she just is like, I think she just sets shit up for us. Because I know
Really?
another black girl that went and seen him and like, she went through the same person I went through.
But how does the money exchange hands then? Does it have to go through the white girl?
No, he gave it to me.
Oh, did he? In cash? Mm-hmm. That's some big boy
And he
shit.
gave me extra because he was pissed.
Really?
Yeah.
What was he so pissed off about?
That I lied about my age and that I was giving someone a cut. He was very upset that I was giving someone a cut.
Why? Like, that makes no sense to me. If you're paying a sex worker for sex, at that point, like, why do you care who and how the money is distributed? Is it that like you're worried more people are going to potentially expose you for the story, or is it just like, well, I don't know, sweetie, I don't like it exchanging hands. I'd rather just be between you and me. Understand?
He didn't know that.
Really? Because he thought it was some form of prostitution? Or...
I have no idea, and I don't want to know, and I've never seen him again. I seen him one time. It was so weird. Because, first of all, I'm 23 right now. So
Sure.
me having a conversation with somebody like that, we are never on the same level. There's not one thing that we can talk about. It was just, what? That was weird. That was like,
So, how old is he now? If you're 23, let's do the math. He's 68. So, he would have been close to 60 when he was paying a sex worker money for sex, who was 18 years old at the time. Been a 60-year-old man trying to have sex with an 18-year-old.
trying to put two magnets backwards together. Like,
he's
you know what I
close to 45 years older than you, somewhere in there. How was the sex?
mean? Boring.
Boring, yeah. But he had a huge dick, so
Yeah,
it's like,
but
all
it
right,
just
cool.
wasn't my speed. Put
Yeah,
it that
your
way.
speed.
His speed was like rabbit speed.
Oh, his was.
Or not rabbit speed. I'm rabbit speed. His was like more like sloth, like very like slow. He wanted to kiss and make love and just. He was like, slow down, baby. Like every time, like, I'm trying to get this shit done.
Yeah. You want to get the fuck out of there at this
Yeah.
point. 'Cause it's just like, hey, I'm with a 60-year-old white dude who's slicking his hair back, and he's pale. That's
Yeah.
Oh, so he was 68 at the time. Oh, wow. Gross.
a pale motherfucker. He's almost see-through. That guy is almost see-through. And when you're having sex with him, you're probably just like, hey, just let me get this money and get the fuck out of there.
Yes.
Yeah, sex work is work, by the way. Anyways, back to Bill.
5. I've been to all of Diddy's freak-off parties, and I work at this
timing on that, just juxtaposing the reality of him actually hiring very young sex workers versus him joking about being part of, you know, these controversies. That's actually, it's pretty good. Yeah, you can't write that stuff.
Same place as Euphoria. In fact, she's right down the hall.
Invoking that as well, also knowing that he fetishizes black people, black women specifically, sexually. Interesting that all of this is just timing, you know, again.
My TikTok handle is BeNasty, and I go live every Friday night with the anime filter on, and
Yeah, again, wow. I'm just, to the chatter who dropped that, beautiful. Now, like, you've really added some context for a lot of these jokes that we're seeing right now.
I once won a smoke-off against Willie Nelson, Woody Harrelson, and Snoop. Okay, that one's true. But no, look, truth be told, I'm a baby boomer. I remember phone booths and cars with ashtrays and vaginal sex.
Gross. I didn't actually choose violence today. I didn't know that clip existed. I had no idea. Like, I was watching that clip for the first time as it was going down. But yeah, gross.
And I didn't learn about the Middle East from TikTok, which is a Chinese company whose totalitarian government would just love to have America's youth hating America. That's some of that algorithm stuff you say you want to look into.
Yeah, so provide evidence, please, that, again, this company, which is, I believe, majority owned by Americans, by the way. I know it's silly, the whole publicly traded shit. But either way, can you demonstrate directly that their algorithm is being controlled by the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party, in order to manipulate Americans? Because I think what's actually happening on TikTok is that there seems to be a lot of suppression, especially once it started being widely available, of Palestinian resistance information. It became one of those things where it was surging on TikTok for a very long time, especially the hashtags and everything, and then all of a sudden a lot of that suddenly just cooled down because a lot of people were applying a lot of pressure within the United States saying that we're going to be banning the social media app because it seems to be turning a whole bunch of kids into humanists. They suddenly care, they have empathy, their empathy gets activated, and then they're like, oh wait, what this is what the empire does? And then all of a sudden it's like, no, the empire secures freedom, you gotta love it. It's the Chinese are trying to manipulate your brains, they're playing with you in these algorithms. Yeah, social media is bad. Not our social media, though. Facebook, that's great. You know, Twitter, the everything app. I don't know if you've seen it, but I mean, if you ever want to know what Nazis are thinking on any topic at any given day, you can find out instantaneously. Post anything you want. It can be very benign. Post something like, hey, I like pancakes. Boom. You'll be like, you know who also liked pancakes? Hitler. And then you can find out exactly what the Nazis are thinking. So that's cool. It's the everything app for Nazis.
Now, first off, the fact that you don't know much history isn't your fault. You live in the United States, where the schools stopped doing that whole teaching facts thing a while ago. But getting all your history from TikTok is...
Again, just like, this is why liberals cannot save us, because, like, you know, rather than point out that, hey, there has been a really big problem with the underfunding of public schools, and there has been a very big problem with the right also trying to control what kind of information comes into public schools and do revisionist history in order to start teaching that maybe slavery was kind of okay, actually. It taught slaves useful skills, Ron DeSantis style, that stuff, or, like, basically erase anything related to queer education at all. You can't learn from any single author who at any point expressed being gay. You can't learn about that gay is okay and valid, or that gay people exist, all that stuff. No, that's also wretched Satanism, and that needs to be expunged. Those are real problems, things that you could talk about, not just being like, well, the schools decided that facts don't care about your feelings and they wanted safe spaces. And all of you kids don't understand how the world really works. We used to have phone booths and we used to have ashtrays. Now you all have Vapor Nation and you're all doing the big rips and the fat tugs. But what are you all really about, right?
like getting all your calories from Hostess. I know you're moved by what you see on there. We all are, the dead Palestinian bodies. But it's odd that your generation didn't seem nearly as moved by the Jewish bodies on October 7th. You killed at Coachella this year, but when Hamas kills at a music festival...
Oh, fucking cringe. Oh, my God. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, well, you kids, you all seem really upset about dead Palestinians, but were any of you upset on October 7th? Was there any coverage of October 7th at all? Was October 7th even in mainstream media? Did anyone even bring it up? Was anyone concerned about it? Did every major politician for every major empire, express any kind of, sadness, consolidation, remorse, regret, any of this kind of stuff? Did it even happen?
Festival, it's a whole other thing. Doesn't the sight of so many young women raped at a music festival make it a little personal? My guess.
What a profoundly gross thing to say. And again, why are you leveling all of this at someone who's like, hey, by the way, I'm not ever going to vote for Trump. Fuck Trump. But at the same time, I'm deeply repulsed and disgusted by the United States fueling and funding a genocide. That was the essence of the video that is getting Bill so pissed off right now that he's got to be like, so I guess you're okay with people getting raped. I guess you're okay with people getting raped at music festivals. That's apparently what Chapelle Roan is about. Yep. That's fair.
Is that Gen Z hearts are hardened by the propaganda you see on TikTok, which likes to call the Jews colonizers. But colonizers are intruders who have no history in an area, like when Spain conquered the Mayans, or when your mom took over Facebook.
So it's not Jews, as in all Jews. It's people who want to promote Zionism. So Zionists, and there's a lot of non-Jewish Zionists as well, especially in America. A lot of Christian nationalists who also happen to be Zionists. There's a lot of politicians who are perhaps Irish, like the President of the United States, but are also very proud Zionists. That's a distinction worth mentioning.
When the Dutch took over South Africa, they had no history to the land. They just wanted it. But Israel is the Jews' homeland, and Jews have always lived there. I cap you not. You can look it up. It's in this book called The Bible.
You're one of the most outspoken and avowed atheists in the game. You made an entire movie about it. It was terrible. It was such a fucking terrible film. The religiosity or whatever, religulous. But now suddenly the Bible is apparently a testament to historical data. The same guy just constantly being like, yeah, I don't believe in God. I think people who believe in God are stupid. I think that if you're going to believe in God, you might as well believe in fairies and fairy tales and spaghetti monsters. Do you believe in spaghetti monsters? I don't think you do. By the way, according to the Bible, yes, it turns out that Israel has always existed and that it is the homeland for the Jewish people and they must return there. I think there's other stuff in the Bible about why they must return there. I mean, don't read too deeply into it. Maybe it's why all the Christian nationalists are so excited about the Zionist project itself. But source, the Bible. So, yeah.
Which is horribly wrong about sex ed, slavery, science, and cooking. But the archaeology checks out. It says the
No, it doesn't. You were a huge fan of Christopher Hitchens. I'm surprised you're going down this road. I mean, it shows the desperation. But Christopher Hitchens was one of the people, again, someone whom you're very, very fond of, who was saying that there isn't actually direct archaeological evidence to back up a lot of the statements that are made within the Bible itself. Not to say that the Bible isn't made on a mixture of, mythology, perhaps some historical anecdotes, stuff like that, for sure. But then to use it as any kind of compass for a historical guideline would be, again, in the same way that you've been calling out people who are religious in general, foolish, very foolish. But I guess when it comes to this, all bets are off. Everything changes. And then suddenly, well, this is actually a historical text that we should give a lot of credence to.
Jews built a temple with a really big wall 7 centuries before Muhammad or Islam ever existed, and sure as shit, you can still go there and touch it. Calling Jews colonizers in Israel is like calling Native Americans colonizers here. It's ridiculous.
That is fucked. Absolutely fucked.
Chapelle, did you know that for 2,000 years, Palestine was like an Uber driver with a 3-star rating? Nobody wanted it.
So this kind of racism is the same kind of stuff that, politicians in Canada have been regurgitating this idea that it was a, quote, crappy piece of land with nothing on it until, thankfully, both, the Zionist Project, America, France, and Britain, they all, combined forces in order to be able to create a utopia in the middle of nowhere. Again, very, very intentional racism to continue to dehumanize Palestinian people, to try and speak about Palestine or even Palestinians as if they were simply a backwards group of, terrorists in waiting who needed to be brought to heel and civilized.
And there was never any Arab country called Palestine. It was an...
And yes, just completely skipping over the Crusades, but let's not talk about that. It's an ugly part of history.
Orphan province. And if you ask people what they thought about it back then, they'd say it gave them the ick. But
why, it's again, just referencing things that, Gen Zers say is enough of a joke. You don't even need you don't have to weave that into anything. You don't have to put it as part of a setup and then a punchline. You can just be like, here's a thing I've heard them say. Here's some AAVE that some of the young children are saying. Yeah, no cap. Pretty awesome, right? Yeah, that's certainly, listening to the new Chapelle Roan album gave me the ick. That's the joke, is the fact that I, an older person, I'm saying the ick. That's funny.
after World War II, and after the Jews were very nearly wiped out by an actual attempted genocide, they decided it was time for their historic homeland to be an actual country, so that for once they could defend themselves. And the UN, we like them, right? Yeah, they agreed and voted a country.
If you like them, maybe you should be listening or looking at any of the new UN reports that have been coming out showing that, in fact, they are guilty currently, the Israeli government and the Israeli army, of enacting genocide upon the Palestinian people. There's numerous reports. There's rapporteurs, as members of the UN Human Rights Commission who are speaking out against this. And yeah, I mean, you can't just pick and parcel the human rights that you want to do. That's kind of the whole problem with the situation that's going on right now, is that a lot of people are kind of like, why is it that the United States always talks about how there has to be international rules-based order, that, we cannot support countries engaged in colonization, war crimes, stuff like that, but none of that applies to Israel. None of those rules, that rules-based order, that you cannot use things like white phosphorus, you cannot directly target civilian infrastructure, you can't directly target, the press, journalists, members of the medical community, doctors, nurses, you cannot directly target orphanages, children's schools, hospitals, all that kind of stuff. All of that goes out the window. All of a sudden it's like, well, yeah, but Israel is fighting terrorists and terrorists are evil, so it's okay, right?
Country for each of the indigenous peoples. One side agreed to that, but the Arabs had a slightly different proposal. They said, how about we keep it all and wipe you out? Chapelle, if you think it was repressive growing up queer in the Midwest, try the Mideast.
Oh, so you do know. So you just don't know what the word ally means then. Because weird that you would call her a queer ally when she's just queer. You're supposed to be the ally, but you're not.
You're a female drag queen, and you sing, I fucked you in the bathroom when we went to dinner, your parents at the table. Yeah, that wouldn't fly in Gaza, although you would straight off a roof.
Not as many laughs for that one. Bill Maher openly fantasizing about murdering her. But, yeah, he did the meme. What if you were gay in Gaza, though? Huh? Yeah. Queers for Palestine. More like chickens for KFC, am I right? Because if you went to Gaza, it'd be the Palestinians who killed you. I mean, that probably would have landed a little better if we didn't have the actual footage of IDF soldiers throwing people off roofs. Civilians, by the way, innocent civilians just being killed in grotesque and dehumanizing ways. That probably would be a thing. I mean, like, yeah, if I went to Gaza, I would probably die because Israel is killing everyone there. If it wasn't for the forced starvation or the, forced mass migration and the ethnic cleansing, I mean, the lack of medical supplies, the lack of water, food, basically any infrastructure at this point, the entire area has been destroyed. Yeah, most likely a bomb would land on your head and burn you alive. And if you survive that, you have to move to a different area where more bombs will land on your head and burn you alive. He's doing the meme.
The same goes for knee-deep on the passenger seat and you're eating me out. Yeah, my guess is the morality police would figure out that one's not about the drive-thru. And kill your feather boa-wearing ass. You know when you sing that LA is where boys and girls can all be queens every single day? You're welcome, but offer not good in the West Bank. Chapelle, you're not wrong that oppression is bad.
Yeah, so if you're gay and you were not treated nicely by people in a different country, in a sovereign country, then, you know, we have a right to invade and bomb the fuck out of them. Because they don't have as much gay rights as we do. And so, fuck them. Like, putting aside the fact that, again, there isn't really a lot of demonstrable evidence that the second a tourist who happens to be LGBTQ plus arrives in the West Bank, that they're immediately captured and thrown off of rooftops simply for being gay, as Bill Maher is kind of implying here. I would still say that at the moment, the biggest risk to queer folk in the West Bank or in Gaza is Israel killing them, because they're killing everybody right now. And, like, that's just the reality.
Or that Palestinian and many other Muslim populations are oppressed and deserve to be freed. You just have it completely...
See, right there. Deserve to be freed. And that's kind of just the whole colonial ethos, isn't it? You need to be liberated. It's for your own good. Yeah, I mean, we are going to bomb the fuck out of your country, and there's not going to be a lot left, but afterwards, you'll be free. Free to do what? Probably be under, I don't know, whatever terrible organization decides to come along and suck up the vacuum of power there, and then, you know, kind of just control and dictate and dominate that region, while we sit back and be like, ah, yeah, they're backwards. They really are. Did you see how backwards they are? They got this whole Taliban thing. Apparently they're really bad on human rights, and it's, you know, inferior culture, inferior civilization, and that's why they live in perpetual poverty. We're going to have to get in there to liberate them. So let's get in there, bomb the fuck out of them, and then leave again, just like other nations and empires do. And then the whole cycle continues to repeat. And then we can look back and be like, well, they're actually being really, really, really cruel and towards women. And it's true. They are. The Taliban is absolutely horrifying for women who live in Afghanistan. But it's one of those things, too, where it's just like, so what are you going to do about it? We're going to get in there, bomb the fuck out of them, just destroy the whole place again, and then leave. And then just get out. And then freedom or something. I don't know. Something's going to happen.
Ass backwards as to who is doing the oppressing. Hamas is a terrorist mafia that took over Gaza. The Revolutionary Guard is a terrorist mafia that took over Iran. ISIS is a terrorist mafia that took over Iraq. The Taliban is a terrorist mafia that took...
And this is how you got to see the world. Just keep on looking at it through that lens. That every one of these countries, these backward civilizations, again, inferior cultures, all of them are just led by horrifying terrorist organizations, and so it's justifiable whatever is done to them. Whether that be acts of mass terror on a scale of which they could only dream of. They could only dream of. Again, if you told me, hey, by the way, there's a terrorist organization. What are they called? ISIS-L. ISIS-L. What have they done? Well, they have effectively taken an entire region and completely destroyed it from top to bottom. We're talking all of the buildings. We're talking communication buildings, hospitals, schools, towers, government buildings. We're talking every single square inch of land right now is just being bombed and destroyed and depleted. Wow, that's terrible. They also have these concentration camps and these torture centers where they're actually taking people by the thousands. They're imprisoning them, and they're forcibly raping them. Men, women, children as well. It's well documented that these centers now exist and are doing institutionalized rape. In fact, their own society started debating whether or not the merits of being able to rape prisoners, because they've dehumanized them so much, should be allowed. And one of the people who committed the acts of rape is actually on television within this society, talking about the benefits of doing it to these people that they've dehumanized so much. They have cut them off from all food, water, supplies. They've been bombing all the infrastructure, so they have no clean water. They've been bombing all and then pumping sewage into their water systems to again try to effectively make sure that they remain sick. There are outbreaks of a whole bunch of diseases, such as polio, for example, and this is all during this mass starvation campaign, while white phosphorus and other, again, banned substances are raining down upon them. We're forcing them to move from location to location to location during this period of time. So effectively at this point, the Lancet estimates that the number of deaths are 2/3 women and children, and they far exceed hundreds of thousands of people. At this point, that's where we're at. Every single doctor who has returned, again, from seeing what has happened on the ground, including U.S. doctors, have signed letters pleading with their respective governments to make this stop immediately, because they have never seen crimes against humanity of this magnitude. They didn't even know they could exist at this level of horror. Now, if you told me this organization is doing all this, yeah, you might think, well, that sounds bad. Sounds very evil. Yeah, well, it's not just that. Now they're expanding. They're trying to start war on multiple fronts in different countries. Again, using all of these weaponry that they have, 2,000-pound bombs, they're dropping it on sovereign nations that weren't actually responsible for the original attack on October 7th, but they're trying to, say that they were colluding with them and what there is. And now there are multiple wars, multiple fronts as they're continuing to wreak this kind of carnage and devastation on a very, very large scale. Is that not terrorism? If that same organization is suddenly, say, taking technology that is going to be used by civilians, by doctors, by teachers, by nurses, and then they're using, again, that technology to explode in people's faces. Yes, maybe taking out some insurgents or some soldiers and fighters, but also massacring children, where children's faces are being blown off by these exploding pages. Is that not an act of terror? Are these not terrorists? Is this not terrorism on a scale of which, again, ISIS can only dream of, the Taliban can only dream of, all these horrible Boko Haram, these horrible organizations. No one's here trying to say, oh yes, well, we're actually Team Boko Haram now. We are for, capturing women and institutionalizing them and enforcing them not to be able to learn or read or write and committing acts of mass sexual assault and stuff. No one is Team Boko Haram. But again, all of these baddies, all of these bad organizations that you're told your entire life are really, really evil. Look at the scale of devastation and destruction and crimes against humanity that Israel is not only doing, but is tolerated by the U.S. Not only tolerated, funded. Funded by the United States. When it's like, do you condemn Hamas? I mean, I condemn Israel. Again, no one is doing it right now actively from a military standpoint like they are. And to sit back and then be told, oh, but what they're doing is noble. But what they're doing is in the interests of American security. What they're doing is defeating the terrorists. What they're doing, this is the George Bush 2.0. With Bill Maher, who could effectively call out George Bush at the time and be like, it's really fucked up that George Bush is trying to sell us all on these forever wars, the war on terrorism, the war on an enemy that can go on in perpetuity, sell us on that idea, when at the end of the day, he's really just interested in resource extraction. He's interested in world domination. He's interested in making sure that he secures American dominance over the Middle East. It's disgusting to see this George Bush, Dick Cheney, and this entire organization and this, collaboration of these terrible people, Colin Powell, etc., who are now effectively destroying life for so many Iraqis and just destabilizing that region, creating new terrorist organizations who are again filling up the power vacuum. It's really, really awful that the U.S. is doing this. So they're bad. But now things have changed. This is a totally different scenario, totally different. These are noble, again, freedom fighters who are going after the terrorists.
Hey, if you'd like to unlock secret bonus episodes as well as uncensored content, go to patreon.com/The Serfs. This show is produced by Anna Loves Riley, Arian McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hagbard Celine, Jimmy Sombrero, Multimondi, Omni, Political Puppy, Preston Kroll, Quiet 185, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demel, Travis McClinton, Trincell, Words Greenwood, with additional support coming from all of these amazing human beings right here.